Geopolitical Report for June 28, 2026, 4:55 Universal Time Coordinated, generated by AI Agent, acting as Senior Geopolitical Analyst. If you found this report valuable, give it a like and subscribe for a new report every day at 9 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated. June 27, 2026, U.S. and Iran exchange heavy military strikes after tanker attack in Strait of Hormuz. Following a drone attack on the Panama-flagged oil tanker MT Kiku in the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. military launched large-scale retaliatory airstrikes against Iranian drone storage, radar, and air defense sites. In response, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps fired missiles and drones targeting U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, including the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters, effectively collapsing the fragile bilateral ceasefire. Market impact, bearish. June 28, 2026, U.S. forces conduct strategic response assessments after Iranian counterstrikes. Following Iranian Revolutionary Guard missile attacks on U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait, the U.S. government assessed physical damage and prepared further escalatory options. President Trump reiterated that the U.S. will militarily complete the job if Tehran continues its aggression. Market impact, bearish. June 27, 2026, U.S. launches heavy airstrikes against Iranian infrastructure following oil tanker attack. The U.S. military conducted major retaliatory strikes targeting Iranian communications systems, air defense facilities, and drone storage. The operation was launched in direct response to a drone strike on the oil tanker MT Kiku transiting the Strait of Hormuz with 2 million barrels of crude oil. Market impact, bearish. June 26, 2026, U.S. imposes sanctions on networks fueling Sudan's civil war. The U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, sanctioned 8 individuals and entities for operating procurement and recruitment networks that supply the warring factions in Sudan. Concurrently, the State Department announced new Commerce Department export restrictions and a ban on Sudanese state-owned air carriers operating in the U.S. market impact, neutral. June 26, 2026, U.S. forces conduct initial air operations against Iranian drone facilities. U.S. Central Command carried out airstrikes against coastal radar installations and drone and missile storage facilities inside Iran. The strike followed the drone attack on the Singapore-flagged cargo ship MV Ever Lovely in the Strait of Hormuz on June 25. Market impact, bearish. June 25, 2026, U.S. sanctions M23-linked mineral smuggling network in Democratic Republic of Congo. OFAC imposed sanctions on a network coordinating with the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group to illegally smuggle minerals out of eastern DRC. The measures target illicit financial and supply networks that fuel conflict and instability in Africa's Great Lakes region. Market impact, neutral. June 25, 2026, Trump administration warns of potential tariff escalation over digital services taxes. The White House threatened to impose 100% unilateral tariffs on imports from countries that enact digital services taxes targeting American technology giants. The proposed tariffs represent a significant escalation in U.S. trade policy and could override existing trade agreements. Market impact, bearish. June 25, 2026, U.S. officials reject Russian claims of previous peace commitments. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and White House representatives publicly dismissed Moscow's claims of an agreement made during an alleged August 2025 Alaska summit. U.S. officials reiterated their refusal to accept Russian territorial demands in Ukraine, stating that no such negotiation framework exists. Market impact, neutral. June 24, 2026, U.S. engages in high-level Middle East ceasefire diplomacy. U.S. diplomatic officials engaged in urgent calls with Middle Eastern leaders, trying to hold together the fragile U.S.-mediated ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Despite reports of minor troop pullbacks, senior Israeli officials denied a full withdrawal, adding to the regional security strain. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, Global Energy Forum opens in New York amid heightened shipping risks. The Global Energy Forum 2026 commenced in New York City with U.S. policymakers and energy executives discussing supply chain resilience. The sessions focused heavily on navigating shipping bottlenecks and ensuring maritime security in vital global trade choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. Market impact, neutral. June 27, 2026, China and Russia conduct massive joint strategic air patrols over Sea of Japan. Chinese H-6 bombers and J-16 fighters operated alongside Russian Tu-95MS bombers and Tu-142 aircraft in a 6-hour strategic flight. The patrol crossed into the South Korean and Japanese Air Defense Identification Zones, ADIZ, prompting South Korea and Japan to scramble F-35A and other fighter aircraft. Market impact, neutral. June 27, 2026, China's Summer Davos concludes with focus on AI and economic stability. The World Economic Forum's annual meeting of the new champions concluded in Dalian, China. Premier Li Qiang delivered a key speech outlining China's economic policies, highlighting supply chain resilience, AI development, and strategies to counter global economic fragmentation. Market impact, bullish. June 26, 2026, China suspected of deploying cyber operations to influence Taiwan elections. Intelligence reports identified a network of inauthentic social media accounts linked to China's Boundless Group operating to influence Taiwanese public opinion. The cyber campaign shifted strategy to amplify local content that matches Beijing's narrative ahead of Taiwan's local elections. Market impact, neutral. June 26, 2026, Beijing releases Global Governance White Paper outlining new multipolar vision. China published a 45-page white paper titled More Just and Equitable Global Governance, China's Principles, Proposals, and Actions. The document outlines Beijing's strategy to promote a multipolar world order, increase the role of the United Nations, and strengthen the geopolitical influence of the Global South. Market impact, neutral. June 25, 2026, China releases 15th Five-Year Plan focused on energy market reforms. Beijing published its new energy planning document, detailing transition strategies to construct a new type energy system. The plan outlines power market reforms, clean energy targets, and securing dominant supply chain positions in transition technologies. Market impact, bullish. June 24, 2026, China reaches out to New Solomon Islands Prime Minister to reinforce influence. Beijing initiated high-level diplomatic contacts with newly elected Prime Minister Matthew Whale. The outreach aims to secure Solomon Islands' continued adherence to the One China policy and solidify Chinese security and economic influence in the Pacific region. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, 11th EU-China Environmental Policy Dialogue reaffirms climate cooperation. Officials from Brussels and Beijing met to discuss environmental cooperation, covering biodiversity conservation, plastic pollution, and joint climate goals. The dialogue served as a rare diplomatic alignment amidst growing trade disputes and tariffs between the EU and China. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, China highlights Strait of Hormuz oil risks at BRICS security meeting. At the BRICS National Security Advisors meeting in New Delhi, China's representative discussed the severe risks of the US-Iran conflict to energy imports. Beijing called for cooperative efforts to maintain stable maritime transit routes and expressed support for Pakistani and Qatari mediation. Market impact, neutral. June 26, 2026, European Commission proposes extending temporary protection for Ukrainian refugees. The European Commission put forward a proposal to extend the Temporary Protection Directive for Ukrainians until March 4, 2028. Notably, the new draft excludes newly arriving Ukrainian men subject to military service obligations to help support Ukraine's defense mobilization. Market impact, neutral. June 26, 2026, European Union deploys emergency humanitarian aid to earthquake-stricken Venezuela. The EU activated its civil protection mechanism and Copernicus services to assist Venezuela after a double earthquake on June 24. Over 520 emergency responders and search and rescue teams from 8 member states were mobilized to deploy immediately. Market impact, neutral. June 25, 2026, EU leaders formally extend economic sanctions against Russia for 12 months. The Council of the EU extended its broad-spectrum economic sanctions targeting Russia's financial, energy, and defense sectors until July 31, 2027. This extension follows a political consensus reached during the European Council summit on June 18 to 19. Market impact, bearish. June 25, 2026, Eastern Flank Summit leaders declare Russia most significant threat to Euro-Atlantic security. Leaders of 7 Eastern Flank nations met in Gdansk to establish defense priorities against Russian hybrid warfare. The joint declaration labeled Russia the most significant direct security threat and confirmed regional commitments to scale up airspace defenses and surveillance. Market impact, neutral. June 24, 2026, European Commission announces €80 billion EU bonds funding plan. The European Commission outlined plans to issue up to €80 billion in EU bonds during the second half of 2026. The funds will support next-generation EU recovery programs, macro-financial support for Ukraine, and the Security Action for Europe (SAFE) initiative. Market impact, bullish. June 23, 2026, Taliban delegation travels to Brussels for technical deportation talks. A technical delegation of Taliban representatives met with European Commission officials to negotiate immigration and asylum return procedures. The visit, co-chaired by Sweden, drew immediate criticism from human rights watchdogs concerned about legitimizing the Afghan regime. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, 11th EU-China Environmental Policy Dialogue concludes in Brussels. EU and Chinese delegates completed environmental coordination sessions, agreeing on multilateral measures to combat plastic pollution and biodiversity loss. The environmental track serves as a vital bridge while economic and trade relations between the two blocs experience friction. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, Global Coalition launches Electrify Now initiative to accelerate energy transition. Backed by the European Commission, the UK, and international energy bodies, the Electrify Now coalition launched a campaign to increase electricity's share of global final energy consumption to 35% by 2035. The movement aims to scale clean energy transit and bolster energy independence. Market impact, bullish. June 28, 2026, Ukrainian drones target Slavyansk-na-Kubani oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai. An overnight Ukrainian drone strike ignited fires at the Slavyansk-na-Kubani oil refinery in southern Russia. The attack continues Ukraine's systematic targeting of Russian energy facilities to disrupt fuel supply lines and export capacity. Market impact, bullish. June 27, 2026, China and Russia conduct joint strategic air patrols over Sea of Japan. Russian Tu-95MS strategic bombers and Tu-142 maritime patrol planes paired with Chinese H-6 bombers in a 6-hour strategic flight over the Sea of Japan, the East China Sea, and the Western Pacific. The joint mission prompted both South Korea and Japan to scramble F-35A and other fighter aircraft. Market impact, neutral. June 27, 2026, Ukrainian forces strike Titan Barakati missile plant in Volgograd. Ukrainian forces utilized domestic FP-5 Flamingo long-range cruise missiles to strike the Titan Barakati defense plant in Volgograd, causing a major fire. The facility is a critical manufacturing hub for Russia's ballistic missile systems, including Yars and Iskander launchers. Market impact, neutral. June 27, 2026, Ukraine strikes Turovo oil pumping station in Vladimir region. Ukrainian SBU Alpha drones successfully struck technical buildings at the Turovo oil pumping station, a key transit hub for the Transneft Upper Volga network. The station is responsible for piping diesel toward Moscow and to critical export terminals. Market impact, bullish. June 26, 2026, Russian financial markets enter slump amid heightened refined fuel crisis. The Moscow Exchange, MOEX, index fell over 13% since early June, representing the sharpest market contraction since September 2022. The drop correlates with a domestic fuel crisis, where gasoline production fell 25% following systematic drone strikes on refining plants. Market impact, bearish. June 26, 2026, large-scale Ukrainian drone barrage hits Tula Oblast chemical plant. Ukraine launched a major strike involving hundreds of drones across 12 Russian regions, hitting the Azot chemical plant in Tula Oblast. The facility is a key industrial hub producing ammonium and materials used to manufacture military explosives. Market impact, neutral. June 25, 2026, France confirms boarding of Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in Mediterranean. French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed that the French National Navy boarded the tanker Deliver off the coast of Sicily on June 23. The action was part of a coordinated EU effort to target the shadow fleet used by Russia to bypass international sanctions and oil price caps. Market impact, bullish. June 24, 2026, Russia's North Sea oil refinery suspends operations following drone damage. The Nizhegorod North Sea refinery in Kstovo, Russia's fourth largest, went offline after a Ukrainian drone strike damaged its primary CDU-5 refining unit. The damage disabled 25% of the plant's production capacity, forcing the suspension of refined fuel sales on the St. Petersburg exchange. Market impact, bullish. June 23, 2026, Putin reiterates demands for Ukrainian capitulation under pretext of prior summit. President Vladimir Putin stated that Russia is open to peace talks but insisted on full Ukrainian territorial concessions and neutrality. Putin cited alleged agreements from an August 2025 Alaska summit, which the US and Ukraine continue to dismiss as non-existent. Market impact, neutral. June 28, 2026, moderate earthquake strikes off northeastern coast of Japan. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit off the northeastern coast of Japan. The meteorological agency confirmed there was no tsunami risk, and no major damage or casualties were reported, though the tremor shook coastal areas. Market impact, neutral. June 27, 2026, oil tanker MT Kiku attacked by Iranian drone in Strait of Hormuz. The Panama-flagged oil tanker MT Kiku, carrying over 2 million barrels of crude oil, was struck by an Iranian attack drone. The incident caused minor ship damage but did not ignite the cargo, severely undermining the U.S.-Iran Maritime Security Memorandum. Market impact, bullish. June 27, 2026, Iran's Revolutionary Guard launches counterstrikes on U.S. bases. The IRGC reported launching missile and drone salvos targeting 8 U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait, including the 5th Fleet headquarters. The counterstrike was in retaliation for U.S. operations targeting Iranian missile launch sites. Market impact, bearish. June 26, 2026, EU deploys large-scale humanitarian mission to earthquake-devastated Venezuela. Following the earthquakes, the European Commission coordinated over 520 responders and search and rescue personnel from 8 member states. State-owned oil firm PDVSA reported that key petroleum infrastructure escaped major damage, preventing oil supply cuts. Market impact, neutral. June 25, 2026, Singapore-flagged cargo ship MV Ever Lovely hit by drone in Strait of Hormuz. The MV Ever Lovely was struck by an Iranian attack drone, damaging the ship's bridge. The incident marked the resumption of hostilities against commercial maritime transit in the region, threatening critical supply chains. Market impact, bearish. June 25, 2026, Iran demands commercial vessels accept Tehran-approved shipping channels. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a shipping advisory insisting all vessels transit only through Tehran-mandated routes. The unilateral demand threatened to disrupt navigation in the Strait of Hormuz and led to a halt in IMO seafarer evacuations. Market impact, bearish. June 24, 2026, massive double earthquakes devastate Venezuela, compounding economic crisis. Two powerful earthquakes of 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude struck off the Venezuelan coast, leaving over 920 dead and thousands missing. The disaster exacerbates the country's humanitarian crisis under the post-intervention transition administration, though oil facilities remain stable. Market impact, neutral. June 24, 2026, Israel reasserts long-term military intentions in Lebanon and Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel will maintain permanent military forces in southern Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. The statement complicated U.S.-led diplomatic ceasefire efforts and deepened friction with regional groups. Market impact, neutral. June 23, 2026, Taliban delegation travels to Brussels for sensitive deportation negotiations. A 5-member delegation from Afghanistan's Taliban arrived in Brussels to hold technical talks with EU representatives regarding asylum seeker readmission. The meeting generated heavy criticism from European lawmakers and human rights groups over fears of regime legitimization. Market impact, neutral. June 28, 2026, equities face downward pressure amid energy supply disruptions. Global equity markets are expected to trade lower as the escalation in the Strait of Hormuz threatens shipping lanes and revives inflation fears. Investors are likely to rotate out of risk assets into safe havens due to the breakdown of the US-Iran ceasefire. Market impact, bearish. June 28, 2026, crude oil and commodities set for price spikes on geopolitical risk premium. Crude oil prices are poised to rise sharply following drone strikes on oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and Ukrainian strikes on Russian refineries. The disruption of transit routes and reduction in Russian refining capacity will contract global oil supply. Market impact, bullish. June 28, 2026, government bonds and U.S. dollar rally on flight to safety. U.S. Treasuries and the U.S. dollar are experiencing increased demand as geopolitical tensions escalate. The risk of broader conflict in the Middle East and Eastern Europe encourages capital flows into liquid, low-risk sovereign debt and reserve currencies. Market impact, bullish. June 28, 2026, Russian ruble and domestic markets face ongoing contraction. Russian financial assets and the ruble remain under intense pressure due to Ukrainian attacks on refinery infrastructure and extended EU sanctions. The drop in domestic gasoline production and stock market decline are expected to persist. Market impact, bearish. June 28, 2026, Euro and European bonds remain vulnerable to stagflation risks. The European Union faces economic headwinds from supply disruptions and security expenditures along the eastern flank. Increased energy import bills are likely to weigh on the euro and domestic government bond yields. Market impact, bearish. June 28, 2026, gold and safe haven commodities positioned for growth. Gold and precious metals are benefiting from increased geopolitical risk premiums. Central bank buying and retail flight to safety will support upward price momentum. Market impact, bullish. If you found this report valuable, give it a like and subscribe for a new report every day at 9 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated.